call the budget meeting to order at 6:32 with all members of the council and the mayor present. Do I need to give names? What's that?
Are we having a budget meeting?
I think so.
No, it's a work session for this.
Never mind.
Okay.
All right.
We can talk about budget.
We'll go to correct the minutes to say that we're doing a work session. So do we start with the city manager on this
Well.
or to?
You could enter, I actually,
Mayor Pro-Tem, okay.
yeah, I am on the committee for like policy and grievance, and we definitely needed in place an updated version of our governing rules and professional conduct. So, because the one we have is really outdated. So what I did is I actually redrafted a first draft, which you guys have in front of you. And then Lee was kind enough to also add a lot of resources in the booklet and the handouts. So in the governing rules of procedure, business and professional conduct, there are kind of several, 3 or 4 chapters there, 5, sorry, no. 5? Yes, 5 chapters. And each chapter subheading, you can see, I tried to group them in an orderly manner on, what they pertain to. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to go over and look through it and read it, but, I know there's going to be some work on probably updating this draft as well. I just wanted to make sure you guys had a chance, maybe, I don't know, should we take a minute to look through it or?
Yeah.
5, 10, 15?
I read it, and I just had one comment at the very beginning, 1.1A, where you have all elected or appointed members. I thought we could just say members holding elected office, which covers both people.
Everybody, yeah,
Yeah,
sure,
so that was,
sure.
I have a lot of little comments, but I want people to have a chance to read through it if they haven't.
yeah, I should have left that.
And I know, one of the things that I really struggled on was the
If we can just throw the phone, but
It was. Chapter 2, open meeting laws, closed sessions, and use of electrical devices in electronic meetings. I really struggled with that because we're kind of at a part of current events where this wasn't, the electronic devices and the electronic meetings weren't ever in place before. So this is kind of new, in the relatively, 21st century new. And I don't know, if we need to work more on honing in with electronic devices and electronic meetings, because we actually use electronic devices during our meetings. Hence the computer. So maybe that needs just to be more specific.
Yeah, I wondered that too, because I was like, it makes sense. I think what you maybe were saying is like, if we use our own personal devices for any business, it can be subject to open meetings, like a
Oh,
public, you
right,
know, so it can be subpoenaed or whatever, even our own like Facebook Messenger or anything like that. So none of that was included, and I didn't know if it needed to be, just so new council members are aware of that. But then also, like, my kid texts me sometimes, like, Mom, can I make chicken nuggets or something? And if I'm in a meeting, I'm like, yeah.
it's easy to, yeah,
You know.
exactly. It's easy to text and, life happens. So,
So what is the procedure, like, if someone suspects someone else of talking about a topic, then how would you know?
While we're in meeting.
yeah, during a council meeting.
Because this specifically says like topics being considered. So unless I go over and be like, Cara, who are you talking to? What are you talking about? Super invasive.
Right, but, I was going off of other cities and this is as far as they got.
Yeah,
That's where I originally gathered this information to begin with.
And it's pertaining just to, your behavior during the actual
meetings.
open meeting itself.
Because we did have an incident last year where a member of the public did complain about one of us on our phones texting.
but then it was explained that we look up codes and we,
Yeah.
and that person apologized, like, I didn't realize that's what you all were doing.
Right, or looking up definitions, or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
So I think.
So I just want to make it clear that we define, I guess, our boundaries on that.
Yeah, that's what just exactly that, Kurt. So you need to, as a council, you need to identify, you've all been assigned an iPad. So and if that's agreed upon by this council, your iPad counts as your electronic device that you're using. So again, for those examples of them looking up on a code or something like that, then you should have them, accessible on that electronic device. I think the big part of it is that, you're in an order of business, so your focus needs to be on that order of business, not on, anything else. Now, that's not saying that council themselves can't say, it's okay for you to have your cell phone for emergency purposes in front of you,
Right.
and you certainly can answer if you have have a situation. But it's also understanding that your focus is you're in business, you use the electronic device that's been assigned for that purpose.
Because I guess more importantly, I just wanted everybody to understand that, when we are using, whether it's this or whether it's this, it is subject to the subpoena. No matter what, I trust that we all are, grown-ups and we know how to, engage. So that I'm not worried so much about that, but I just want the general public to understand that we realize basically that there are boundaries, and one of them is knowing that we are also in the eye of the public, and anything that we have witnessed that we're on could be subject to subpoena
Yeah, I guess.
if there's a
to have-
controversy.
So the public knows we're not texting each other
Right,
too, is really
exactly.
important.
Yeah, because that clears,
Yeah,
that is a violation. So,
Maybe it's just more saying specifically what the electronic device is for, and then that's true. Because getting into that just goes down another, those violations or those things all are, again, that can all be, that's gonna be based on a complaint from the public saying, hey, I think, but for your folks, for you, it's just a clean outline to say, what will these devices be used for? You can always then bring in, the additional
information.
information that pertains to. And you can always just even put like the code violation of an open meetings, you could just even put the code itself, so you're not writing the actual.
Yeah, I just figure by including constitute a violation of Iowa's open meeting law, I mean, we could put that code in there, but I just figured that that would be enough to, for us to understand that earlier we have in the paragraph above, I do outline open meetings. And I do have the chapter 21 of the Iowa code in there, so I just kind of thought, but if we need to add that specific code and numerical chapter, we can. I don't know how you guys feel.
And just coming back to the simple, if that code is, if you have wording in there and that code somehow changes, then we just need to make sure that we stay on top of.
We update.
Yeah, that's why I just like, we try to reference just the code itself.
And, go ahead.
Well, I'm looking at this, first part, 2.1. So if I understand as I read this, that if, Tim and Josh and I got together and discussed, were together, then, that's not a violation of the open meetings law. Or-
That's how I understood it when we went to the institute training, but then when Pat was here, he made it seem like it was.
Well,
That's
to me, it's questionable ethics. It's
Yeah.
not a
Right, it's
violation, but it's
violation.
questionable ethics if we
That's right.
got together and decided things without, and so I think we should avoid the appearance of it. But I'm looking at your wording in the beginning, all gatherings, meetings in person or electronic. I wonder if we need that phrase, whether formal or informal, because it covers everything where three or more of the council are, and I was struggling with how we call that, all gatherings, meetings. So is this one you came up with from one of the other cities or?
I think I kind of combined some wording to come up with it so that it could give a concise explanation that whether we're at a social event or whether we're in a work session, which is informal, because we're not actioning here, or it's a formal council meeting that, and there's any shop talk discussed, that is a violation.
Yeah, because I know, Lee, when we had the quarterly business gathering, Lee wanted to know how many of us were going to attend.
Right.
So that, and I think
We could
you
post
ended up posting a agenda, or Shari posted an agenda so that we made sure that we were covered on.
But I think you hit exactly, that it's more of a perceived ethical violation, that if you're
Yeah.
at the same place with two council members, it's perceived that way, but it is not an actual violation.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So if we want to alleviate that first sentence, we could just say, gatherings, or we could just say, gathering with a majority of governmental body consisting of 3 council members or more, I guess.
I kind of like the whether formal or informal because it does touch upon, and we're a small town, so it does touch upon more like
Yeah.
gathering parties outside of even.
Yeah, because we can't avoid it.
Exactly.
We're a
If we're at
small
the same
community.
like concert, band concert. or
Right,
something, you
Right,
know?
we're in the same space.
You
Maybe
could
not
be in
there.
the same space, it's just the congregating of the individuals.
It's just within that
So
space.
you can attend, any public event. It is just as the mayor has said, the ethical piece is that now, 4 of you are in a corner talking. So then that's when that creates that. Now you're in a quorum because you're a council, but at the same time, that's not the purpose of why you're attending the event. However, if a public person would overhear you discussing business, then they can come, then
Well-
that creates the
If we're all together talking,
open meetings.
then that's
violation.
just the perception of
Right.
us
Exactly.
talking is,
Yeah.
could technically be considered.
How do you feel about just removing the word meetings from that, all gatherings?
Sure. We could- What do you all think?
Fine.
So just abbreviate meetings. All gatherings in person or by electronic means, whether formal or informal, with a majority of the governmental body consisting of 3 council members where there is deliberation or action or the possibility of discussion or deliberation upon any matter within the scope of the governmental body's policymaking duties with the Open Meetings Laws, Chapter 21 of the Iowa Code. Does that make sense?
The only question is it fair to say, would you put in there, so every entity has, a different, how they get a form? Okay, so
Right.
I'm thinking you may wanna put in there, you know, somehow word it quorum, which consistent of 3 or more, because that's how your council is established.
Like
Different,
a forum.
Yeah.
Oh, so
'cause
maybe,
different municipalities have
yeah,
different rules of how they create a quorum.
Somewhere, right?
that's a good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, you do have
He or
it.
She has consistently 3 council members.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanna make sure you
Where's
have a
that at?
consistent.
It's in that same exact.
In the second sentence.
It's in the
Or second line.
And it says
Oh, there.
consisting of 3 council members.
That's, I saw some of that.
Yeah, I do think I saw something for this too.
Yeah.
So what, instead of in the parentheses consisting of 3 council members, we could actually put a quorum, you know, of council.
Yeah.
In there. Instead,
Yeah, all I'm saying is I just wanna make sure that you have, the consistent understanding of what this West Liberty City Council quorum is. Mhm.
and that's 3, nobody knows. Also, the last sentence, meetings shall not include a gathering of members of a governmental body for purely ministerial or social purposes when there is no discussion of policy or no intent to avoid the purposes of chapter 21 of the Iowa codes. So that is saying, you know, obviously what we talked about just a minute ago about the social gatherings or, you know, how we're brought together through some sort of means
Mhm.
other than talking about city business. And then in that case, we obviously wouldn't be together talking, you know, in a group.
Nope, you're either listening to the pastor minister or you're listening to band concert. Because that is a very common practice through rural Iowa, is that you have community where you have maybe
Yeah.
all but the forum that attends churches and watering holes, you know,
Firefighters.
helping
Pancake
each other,
breakfast.
having the meal,
Breakfast,
pancake
yeah.
breakfast.
Mhm.
Although we do post for the pancake
Pancake
breakfast,
Okay.
yeah.
We don't post like an agenda.
No, we just
post that
post.
a quorum may be present, but no
Yeah.
decisions will be made. Anytime that there's something big like that, or you guys are coming to a meeting out here at the community center, we'll always post just to let them know that there may be a quorum, but no decisions will be
Yeah.
made.
Okay.
But like Councilmember Dominguez said, you know, that happened, I mean, there's a Thursday event coming up for fundraising for the arts. And so we may not all know that, you know, all of you may not know you're gonna attend and you'll all show up there and, yeah.
Right,
And most of that is just taken directly from the actual chapter of the Iowa code too, as far as definition of closed session and some of that in the open session meetings. But the 2.3 and 2.4 in regards to electronic device, electronic meeting, that was sort of a merging of different other cities' ordinances, because that is kind of relatively new with city government, you know, get-togethers, meetings, business. So under 2.3, do we need to redraft that paragraph? On, because it does specifically, list texting during the meetings, because that was brought up too early on in our meeting, but maybe we should add a definition about how electronic devices are utilized during our meeting, because we're issued one, so that we can refer to resources, references, definitions, and so forth.
Yeah, I
So-
just think
Agendas.
I mean, I think it's important to just say, I mean, for me, it's like, you need the public to recognize that you do have an electronic device, it's permittable under your procedures. I mean, and if you need to have an additional saying, you know, just a statement saying that council members are permitted for emergency purposes to address their phone or something to that, so.
Okay,
Why don't we say
Because
council?
it's your rules, yeah.
Well, we say mayor and council rather than city officials.
okay.
I'm thinking like Chief Hauser.
Oh, yeah.
Gets an
You're-
emergency call, he is a city
Absolutely.
official. And
Um,
he talks to, one of the other officers,
Mhm.
they're both city officials, so the way that's written currently, I think.
Correct, you're correct. And then the electronic meeting, I guess that's how you feel, Mr. Mayor. I know the last mayor really frowned upon it, the electronic meetings, he didn't like that, but I think it's up to
Yeah.
what we want and what you prefer.
Kind of hard not to have one during the pandemic, so.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah,
or if
we've
somebody's
got time,
sick
yeah.
and we don't
Yeah.
have a quorum and we, you know,
Yeah.
we've had instances such as
Yeah.
that come up. Okay, so you may
Yeah, I'm just, yeah,
allow, yeah,
I'm just thinking it through. You know, if I wanted to be, or the mayor wanted to be vindictive. You know, if I don't want. I'm just trying to think, would it be okay if it was just,
I think I mean, honestly, if you were to put, I mean, just having
or if it sounds okay.
you have it like if the quorum is needed, I mean, you're stating the special circumstances
Right,
where, you know,
it is
it's like the
allowed?
preference would be for everybody to attend in
Yeah.
person.
yeah,
However, if a quorum, just as you have, I mean, if it's needed, then it's going to be permitted by the mayor for that. Because again, just like you said, you're all adults. If you're not feeling well, I mean, if you want to listen in on the meeting, you certainly can, but then there's no expectation that you're gonna participate.
That's kind of the thing, even if I've gone on like my trip or two, I've always said, if I'm needed.
Yeah.
I'm available, but that's.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've gone from a society where if you weren't running a fever, you came out in public to now, if you're sick, stay home. And that's a smart move to do that. I was just thinking about the mayor, maybe if we just said something like,
Because you're the one that facilitates the meeting,
Yeah, okay.
so I guess it's kind of what you would,
yeah, we can make it like that.
okay. Are we,
Why not? The church group, I think, the church.
Yeah, it sounds like
Jesus
songs,
loves.
yes,
Okay.
right. Yeah,
is everybody okay with, okay, now that we've gotten that part over, because that's the one I struggled with the most. I think we can to the beginning, and I just wanted to make sure you all, were okay with 1, 2 interpretation of procedure, where the second sentence says the city attorney shall be considered the final authority on any questions regarding the application or interpretation of the rules and procedures. I put that in there because that was in a lot of other city documents.
The only thing that, I mean, to define, to like specifically define who decides whether or not, but also, especially because attorneys know what the difference between someone violating a policy versus someone violating a law, right? We have these policies which we need, so everybody's on the same page, but also there's a fine line between protected constitutional rights, whereas we may, violate our policy, but it's not violating a law. So that's why I think it's good that the attorney weighs in.
Because they're going to be more professed on
Yeah.
code too, to be able to give us that distinction, I guess,
Mhm.
if we had questions.
Yeah, I think if the attorneys haven't seen this yet, it might be good for them to go through.
Oh,
it, too.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Definitely have you, I mean.
Yeah, that's
ideally,
the
is to
next-
have you guys iron it out.
Yeah, and
Then
then
we get a draft
submit it.
prepared and then it goes to legal for their blessing.
And then strategies for council effectiveness. I took that right out of the MLA, strategies. So there is a lot of reference, as stated earlier, with the Iowa legislature online at legis.iowa.gov, and also the most recent edition of the Iowa Municipal Policy Leaders Handbook. And then parliamentary procedures comprised in the most current edition of the Robert's Rules of Order and the Iowa League of Cities. So I do have reference in there for people to go back and, look at those. And then if you all want to change time and dates, now's the time to do it before this is finalized. Right now, we meet the 1st and 3rd Tuesday evenings at 7:30, but if there is a, consensus of change here, let's do that.
discussion, Thursdays won't work for me because I'll be, working for the Board of Supervisors in Johnson County, and that's when they have their meetings this Thursday night, so.
Okay. But I just wanted to throw that out there in case you all,
7:30 is the especially when.
Tuesdays are okay, it's like, I think we can just bump it up some.
well, yeah, you tell me.
I mean, I don't really think.
What are you guys thinking? Do you want to bump it up an hour? You want to bump it up?
6:30?
Yes.
Yeah, I can do something if we want.
Do we want to change that to 6:30? How,
I guess, I mean, if we would bump it up to 6:30, then we would have work sessions.
oh, then our work sessions would be earlier.
Yeah.
Something to consider.
So
How
what if you
early
did
are-
something Like 7,
Well, how can people get here? I mean, if you get off at 5, and you get here at 6? Are you usually off at 5:30? What is a reasonable time?
My new hours, I'll be off at 4:30, so I'm even more flexible.
So keep in mind, I mean, it's been historically, they've always put work sessions before the council meetings for convenience. It does not mean that that's when work sessions need to be scheduled. A
Right.
work session can be scheduled anytime, you know, it's just. Historically, the practice has been that they would schedule them before the meeting, but as you all know, that sometimes that makes for a really long meeting, so I mean, you can keep that in mind too, is that if you move your time up, then you just be open to looking at work sessions scheduled, maybe not, if it's not
On
gonna
a
work. but
different
the same-
day.
Yeah, maybe a different day for a work session. That way you can hold a work session and just focus on those things. And then you're not putting, after a long work day, you're not also putting another, you know,
Long night.
5 to 7 hours of work sessions and council meetings. That's just a recommendation. But there's no, I mean, these are yours as your.
What about staff though? Like, do you all like,
Let's-
go home and make dinner and?
So I do know that a lot of staff has communicated that they would like to see that time brought up because 7:30 kind of cuts into the evening time with children. I know Nikki had mentioned that you would like to see it earlier. We had came in and talked to me and I do not go home. I know we don't know that either. Most of the department heads are also off at 3:30, so their time schedule is a little bit different than financial.
Except Ally.
Except but financial administration hours are different, so.
Well, we could do 2 separate days. I mean,
Yeah.
one day could be a designated work session and the other could be a,
Yeah, because sometimes I like a work session staff.
Right.
Or sometimes you're not.
hour and a half.
It just depends on that.
I mean, we could designate, keep our, meetings the first and third Tuesdays. And then in between that, we could reserve that Tuesday for a work session. I mean, we could do something like that.
If it's gonna mean like the staff and council get extra time at night, I'm all for it.
So we could
Because it-
move it up
It
earlier
does
than.
get late.
So would we be thinking like 6 o'clock meeting time?
Well, some staff can't get here before that time either. We have to take into consideration.
What's the impact on the library?
Cause you'll be meeting with them. Library's open until 7. We do stay open late when we have council meetings at the library. And I do stay late for those until everybody leaves, since I'm responsible for the building. So it's genuinely up to council. My meetings start at 7 also. So it's not, it doesn't hugely affect it.
And the thing is a lot of times these meeting times are set because of public attendance. So again, you know, and I very much appreciate that you take the time to think about the employees and our time. That is greatly appreciated, but at the end of the day, it's the public that wants to attend your meeting.
Yeah, what
It's
is
the
good for
public's
them.
idea of what is going to be, you know,
Doable.
6:30, I mean, again, 6:30 or 7 o'clock, I mean, yeah.
So I think if we put ourselves out of this position, what we should do that in 7
I'm getting ready for bed.
Exactly. Sometimes you're out.
I'm getting
by
ready
8
for my
o'clock.
nap. Yeah,
So,
you know that, right?
I mean,
What do
so-
we-
Omar, you woke me
I
up.
like 6:30.
What procedure do we need to take to change the time of the council? Does that take an action in a regular council meeting?
Well, once we pass this.
Yeah.
Then
This
that
would
would
be your.
be the action.
We just need to make sure we coordinate, like I said, I just had provided what the city code is. We just want to make sure whatever your rules and procedures are, that we make sure that when we're working with the codifier, that we want to make sure we take all of that out of there and put a reference to, you know, C council's, rules and,
So
operation
within-
procedures. whatever
keep
you
in mind
call it.
too, within state code, guys, there is a listing line item for rules of procedure. The council shall determine its own rules and maintain records of its proceedings, as is so written. Code of Iowa, section 372.135. So it is stated in there that, you know, that's why we're having kind of this gathering to figure out what we want to have as our rules
So
of
do we
government.
need a motion or can we just poll?
No action today.
Yeah, no, actually,
I had 6:30, I think sounds fine.
I think that's what you put
Just
in your,
you
in
just
your
need it
working
written in
document.
here.
I'd say you just
that's
update it
right.
and then we're ready to vote later.
Yeah.
We'll just know that was
Yeah,
updated.
whether people want it 6:30 or 7.
Yeah.
But it sounds like people are in.
I think
for
2 o'clock
6:30.
in the afternoon would be wonderful. No.
So I'll put
Because
on,
that seems like when your brain's really functioning and you can.
That's when I'm gonna.
when I'm
Okay.
good. Yeah, city first.
Do we do like, do we do a poll on our,
Absolutely not.
Utter what?
Poll.
6 P.M., 6:30.
Because then you folks are gonna
No
say,
input.
you're gonna set a time based on an opinion
No more
that
count.
most of those public people aren't going to attend, right? So.
Let the record show.
Yeah.
It started World War III.
So
Sorry,
then,
Just
Councilmember. Let me tone that back down.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. you guys are wrong.
so then I'll just put on there 6:30 and we can all kind of
Yeah.
mull that around in the meantime. And then I did put at a predetermined location within the city. And I wrote various places because at this point in time, depending on the meeting, how large our expectation is of that meeting, what is the items on the agenda, that could change.
Yeah, and, I mean.
So that's why I gave us a little bit of flexibility too.
What do you say, I go backwards, put the majority on and that would be. Huh? Page? Oh. I mean, I would. So. Hopefully by the time you're ready to pass this, we can put. Normally you would put the actual permanent location.
Right.
And then you can say, you know, just so you're pretty much saying there is that, then it's, but. For. I don't know how it's set now, the mayor's the one who gives the. Directive to move it to another location in case of. You know, it's about size or overflow. Because somebody needs, besides us, I mean, it has to be, and that's where I would say, however, the mayor can change the location based on need of space and.
Okay, so do you want me to get rid of the various locations and then dependent on availability and adequate space, or
I would for now.
scribble
put-
that out?
I would for
That
now,
sounds
put-
great. Yeah, we just said it.
Keep that,
No, scribble it out,
scribble it,
depending on availability and space, and adequate space.
so I'll scribble that out and then we will. Do you want to just say?
Well, I
how-
would say we would put in there, permanent meetings to be set at 400,
Or do we need to? Maybe we don't need to put anything in there. Can you place that?
I almost think you have to have the permanent
We did
location.
have the permanent section of it, right? It was actually on the full street.
So,
Something of these for the street.
That's when we had a city hall.
Because the front of the building where the entrance to the PD is right now, that's always the official chamber used to be within that.
yeah.
Upper room.
And that was the official front door of the city hall. That, the thing is that I would almost say permanent location to be, the public library at 400 North Spencer. And then have the alternative meeting places will be posted on the agenda.
Sorry, Alan. You forever have overtime.
Because that's the only true city properties that we have that we could actually hold a meeting outside of, a rental space. Yeah.
To be listed in the agenda, is that what you said? Or to be,
Posted.
oh, to be
Posted.
posted.
Meeting location will be posted on the agenda.
Okay,
City council agenda, I should say.
Okay.
And again, the attorneys may have,
A
you
different,
know, their, a better verbiage to it, but.
and then, if nobody objects to 1.5, 1.6. It's basically kind of our rules of what we've been doing for presiding officer and agenda preparation. If there's no other changes. Let me know. And then, forum, we know that, order of business, we have that. Preparation, approval, and the correction of minutes, length of meeting, these are just details that we already pretty much abide by already. Abstentions and conflict of interest. Again, I'm going off of, the code. So I do recite the, keeping this principle in mind will help government officials and employees understand the purpose, intent, and effect of all conflict of interest code sections and case law per Iowa League of Cities, latest resources, January of 2023. Other resources for information is in the Iowa Municipal Policy Leaders Handbook and the state code section 68B.2A and section 362.5. So there's a reference there.
If we're gonna do this every year, we'll have to update that when they update it, right? Like the,
Just to make sure, yeah, that hasn't changed.
yeah, the League of Cities next year, maybe
mean,
January 24th.
Unless you want to take that out.
Say, you can always just say the
Correct.
most recent, yes, or most updated, yeah,
Okay.
instead of your year, you won't have to.
Good catch.
Non-attendance, that's another one that I kind of did focus on because, the other cities had specific line items for a non-attendance of council members. But if everything looks okay on that, we can go ahead and move on.
My only thing is I would make it a very direct, I would almost say, if the council member is unable to attend, that they contact the mayor directly and the mayor will then notify clerk and city manager.
Okay,
Because that way you don't have
so
three different
Mayor.
people, like if you just contact one and then maybe somebody doesn't get that message. I
Okay.
would, because the mayor is the one who's officiating your meeting.
So maybe I
So
should
I would
change
do mayor
that.
and someone else though, just in
Well,
case.
What you have one place, and I
Yeah.
wondered if it should be every place that the mayor appears, you have parentheses, or in the absence of the mayor pro-tem. You have something like that someplace
Oh,
in here.
Yeah,
One of the
under, the-
I
yeah,
think it should be the mayor and at least the mayor pro tem as well, or that's for the city clerk, just so there's a backup.
She has that wording someplace, I'll find it.
Because I mean, not that it's not, I mean, sometimes when we, and not let the clerk speak, but there's times with our day-to-day or with our business, there's times when you don't catch your communication until we're maybe right at the meeting and we're like,
Okay.
oh.
And-
You know, so,
Wording. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, the wording you have is in 1.5. The
Okay.
mayor parentheses, or in the mayor's absence, the mayor pro-tem, in parentheses. So I think probably wherever the word mayor appears, that should be.
okay. All right, and through phone call, text, or email as far in advance of the meeting as possible, state reasons for their inability to attend the meeting, and, you know, and then in the case where the absence is not communicated in advance, the council does not have the necessary quorum to proceed with the meetings due to other absences, blah, 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 blah. I didn't realize that that actually was in a lot of ordinances. Cause it made me think of like going to school, man, they take attendance, you know, kind of. But I guess that is something that's extremely like, important. So,
Because if the council member wants to rebel and they just don't show up because they know they're not, they needed to make the quorum.
Right,
then
right,
That can be a power move, right?
true, true. Absolutely.
Well, and you're an
So-
elected official and you're being elected to serve the purpose of your city or your
Right,
state, your county, and so for that reason, that's.
exactly. And then I have work sessions in there, open meetings, closed sessions, electronic, so forth. And then we move on to chapter 3, addressing council, public participation, public hearings and decorum, which goes into like spotlighting, like proper response, group representation, public hearings, decorum during meetings. So it's a lot of, what is expected during the meeting with behavior and protocol, and how to represent. Again, this is taken from a lot of resources that the rest of it was taken from, so.
Do we need to add anything about leaving a meeting in the middle of?
Oh, do we?
I don't know.
Do we? Is,
That's happened before.
Happened recently in the legislature.
I mean, like, of course, people have the right to get up and leave, but that's kind of like an abandonment of your position, I would think.
all right, what do you want to do? Do you guys feel like, is that another line item?
And we have to stop business if we drop below a quorum, correct?
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
when it's not a quorum, then, I mean, if it doesn't drop the quorum, is it okay? If someone gets upset and just leaves the table and leaves the council meetings,
well, then
happened like last year.
yeah, I mean, we can't conduct business. Simply if it's not a.
No,
quorum.
I mean, if
And they
it's still a
leave.
quorum.
Oh, if it's still a
Yeah.
quorum.
I mean, to me, that would almost still be under, like, I mean, that would be bad behavior to me.
Bad behavior.
But
yeah.
also, if someone is being attacked or something, like, where do you draw the line? You don't want someone to be forced to sit there.
And it-
Just take it.
That's
But
just,
even if that's occurring, that's already in here as that should. be
Exactly,
occurring, So
exactly.
there really shouldn't be,
And let's
as
see,
long as
plus,
you're being proactive and you're managing the meeting.
yes.
And you're not allowing that to happen, or as long as
That's,
you're carrying yourselves in the conduct that, there's no reason for anyone to be upset, because if somebody leaves the meeting, because they're upset, then that means that the meeting is not under control.
Yeah.
And the attorney is gonna come back and say, the meeting was not under control, the meeting should have been stopped. So that's,
Plus-
again, that's
plus
the
that-
responsibility of.
that kind of touches upon, under chapter 5, rights, duties, and standards of conduct, under general principles and code of ethics. How the public official and or employee, because a lot of them also had employee in there under their ordinance with public officials. Like should exercise leadership in the form that consistently demonstrates behaviors that reflects the public's trust. Should recognize the proper role of all government bodies and the relationship between various government bodies. Should always demonstrate respect for others and for other positions. I mean, just those, right there kind of, in essence, say, to do something that doesn't meet the respect and demonstrate respect, plus meet the public's confidence in their public officials, things like that are addressed in the code of ethics.
Yeah, you're right. But then the bigger part of it is thinking of it in this manner, that it is empowering the council, the mayor, that if you have an employee that's being disorderly, or if you have a public member that's being disorderly, you have the right as the council member to say, hey, in accordance to our rules and our procedures, I call to ask the mayor to dismiss the individual or call order, because you do have something now in writing saying that's not a part of our.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
The only thing The only other thing I had, Kara, really is like, and this is from experience from years ago, when I worked in a client's office, there was no procedure for like a person working in that office to. Number one, like, make their own complaint, like, cause we were the EO, equal opportunity office. And so if someone had a complaint within that office, there was no way for them to
Oh, to follow a grievance.
file a
practice?
grievance because of all of the internal stuff. So
Yeah.
like, we need something like that, like,
Yes, and we have that, but
okay,
that's on a separate, that's under, and that'll be under the employee policy handbook, I believe, under following grievances and, policy
okay, perfect.
for like anybody that has how to follow it, what to do, what steps to take, who to report to.
I
Okay.
think though,
yes.
I think under your rules and procedures, I'm gonna go back. So I think under your rules and procedures, you actually can have the instruction of, so for example, let's say council, because these are just specific to council and mayor. So if you say you've got an issue with the mayor, maybe you've got an ethical, maybe you've got a problem with the mayor, then maybe it's a statement in here directing to say a council member has a complaint with the mayor, because normally you would go to the mayor. So then you have that, then in absence of that, you would go to the mayor pro tem. Yeah, I think because we're under a city manager leadership, that's where sometimes it may get confusing, because a lot of people would go to the city manager. And I think we can talk to an attorney about that, but I think that's a good point, because if you have a complaint with the mayor, who you would normally take it to, who do you as the council member on your board take it to next?
Yeah.
So.
Is that what you? That's exactly what I was trying to get out.
Yeah, and maybe we should be more specific, because under 5.5, I have reporting of conduct and ethics violations.
Yeah.
So like under B, any official appointed or elected or employee who believes that a violation of any portion of the code has occurred may file a complaint with the city clerk, who may then proceed to provide the city manager and city council for appropriate action as provided in subsection 5.5, paragraph A. Back to before,
Honestly,
above.
honestly, when it comes to the mayor and the council, if you can't take it to the mayor, you really should directly take it to the city attorney.
Okay.
So then
So we
should I,
can just put that in there then.
should I get rid of the,
But I don't,
City
I mean,
clerk
'cause
then?
I'm not familiar with, when it comes to council and mayor. I mean, I have no governance over, or I have no authority over any
Okay.
of it. So that's how
That's
come I
true.
would say it would go
That's
to a city attorney in absence of taking it to the mayor.
so then I should do what you had said earlier about in the absence of the mayor, mayor pro tem. And then if the individual doesn't feel comfortable, then they can go to the attorney.
I like that.
Now, shouldn't the word ethics here be changed to conduct?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, so
conduct violation.
Good catch.
Mhm.
Because
The
some
reporting of
some
conduct
councils
violation.
actually have an ethics officer,
yeah,
right?
yeah, well, as a licensed independent social worker and as a member of the National Association of Social Workers, I'm under two different things. One is the association has a rules of, or the ethics. And the state requires me conduct. And the religious comparison I give is that ethics is sort of like the great commandment, do unto others. It's, so it's a general way of following. And conduct is more like the 10 Commandments. You can do this, you can't do that kind of thing. And
Okay.
that's what we've done here. So,
Well, we only have minutes before we have to do our regular
Yeah,
meeting,
yep.
so if there isn't anything else.
Yeah,
um,
I'm fine with the rest of it. I did find one other place where you said, and it may be fine, 5.3E, no, public official elected or
Okay.
appointed.
So get rid of that.
Yeah, make it, don't we want to make this relevant to the mayor and council.
To make it consistent with
Yeah.
what you're.
Yeah, an elected or appointed, holding an elected office. It covers, I think, both the people that have been appointed and the people that.
Okay. Got it. Yeah.
Thank you, Cara, for a tremendous amount of work.
Oh, sure. Sure, I just wanted to make sure that we got a base down and.
When was the last time I showed you something?
You've never had them.
All the time.
You're on breaking ground.
Yeah,
Add to the
Breaking
list.
historic Steps.
Put it in motion.
You know, this has been, something that has been stated a few times during strategic planning. Hopefully, we'll get, if you wanna update the draft,
yes,
send it, and then we'll get it to the attorney.
Now,
yes.
do we need to, any formal action to?
No, you, if,
Organization?
no, but it's just that I have that in time.